In 1988, while filming The Experts, Travolta met actress Kelly Preston. Their relationship grew stronger, and he proposed on New Year's Eve in 1991 during a trip to Switzerland. They first married in Paris in a Scientology ceremony before holding a second legal ceremony in Florida. Kelly's family believed Travolta brought stability and kindness into her life. At the same time, his own career experienced an extraordinary revival. In 1994, Quentin Tarantino cast him as Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction. Many considered the choice risky, but Tarantino believed in him. The gamble paid off. The movie received a standing ovation at Cannes, won the Palme d'Or, and earned Travolta another Academy Award nomination. Suddenly, Hollywood welcomed him back. What followed became one of the greatest comebacks the industry had ever seen. The years that followed were packed with success. Get Shorty earned him a Golden Globe. Face Slash Off with Nicolas Cage became a blockbuster. Broken Arrow, Michael, A Civil Action, and Primary Colors kept him among Hollywood's biggest stars. On the surface, his life finally seemed complete. He had a thriving career, a happy marriage, and growing children. But appearances can be misleading. Behind the scenes, his family faced struggles that very few people fully understood. John and Kelly's first son, Jett, was born in 1992. From childhood, he experienced serious health problems. He had Kawasaki disease, autism, and frequent seizures. For years, the family rarely discussed his condition publicly. Then, in January 2009, tragedy struck. While vacationing in the Bahamas, Jett suffered a fatal seizure, fell in the bathroom, and struck his head. He was only 16 years old. The heartbreaking loss shocked the world. Soon afterward, authorities arrested several people connected to an alleged extortion attempt involving private information about Jett's death. During the court proceedings, Travolta publicly confirmed for the first time that his son had autism and experienced regular seizures. After a mistrial, he decided not to continue the case. Instead, he focused on honoring his son's memory by creating the Jett Travolta Foundation to support children with special needs. But sadly, life had another painful chapter waiting. Travolta's career continued, although it never fully regained the momentum of the 1990s. Battlefield Earth, based on a novel by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, became one of Hollywood's most criticized films. While movies like Wild Hogs and Hairspray found commercial success, they couldn't restore the same level of critical praise. Then, on July 12, 2020, Travolta faced another unimaginable loss. Kelly Preston died at their home in Clearwater, Florida, after privately battling breast cancer for 2 years. She had received treatment at leading medical centers, including MD Anderson Cancer Center, but chose to keep her diagnosis largely private. Travolta shared the heartbreaking news on Instagram, saying he would step away to focus on their children. Once again, the man who had spent decades entertaining millions found himself grieving in front of the world. Kelly's death also renewed public attention on Travolta's relationship with Scientology. Some reports claimed he had gradually begun distancing himself from the organization after her passing. Sources suggested he was spending time with people the church would not normally approve of and had become less involved than before. Neither Travolta nor the church publicly confirmed any change in his membership, leaving the situation open to speculation. According to Going Clear and Lawrence Wright's research, Scientology relied heavily on celebrity members like Travolta and Tom Cruise to strengthen its public image. Former senior members interviewed for the documentary claimed that influence worked both ways, though those allegations have been disputed by the church. Whatever the truth may be, Travolta has largely chosen silence over public debate. And perhaps that silence says more than words ever could. Today, Travolta remains focused on his family. His daughter, Ella Blue, has followed her parents into acting and music. In 2025, she released the EP Colors of Love, dedicating it to her late mother. His son Benjamin has mostly stayed away from public attention. Travolta has spoken about raising children who experience deep loss at an early age and about helping them understand grief, life, and resilience. Professionally, he reminded audiences of his talent in 2016 with his Emmy-nominated performance as Robert Shapiro in The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story. It proved that even after decades in Hollywood, he could still surprise audiences with a powerful performance. When you step back and look at John Travolta's life, no simple description seems enough. There is the public story of the teenage dreamer from New Jersey who became a global superstar, suffered career setbacks, fought his way back to the top, and endured heartbreaking personal tragedies. Then there is the private story filled with unanswered questions about faith, identity, loyalty, and the enormous pressures that come with living under constant public attention. Through it all, one thing has never changed. Saturday Night Fever, Grease, and Pulp Fiction remain timeless classics that continue to inspire new generations of movie lovers. Perhaps that's the greatest legacy of all. Beyond the headlines, the rumors, and the speculation, John Travolta's life reminds us that every public figure carries a private story the world may never fully understand. And maybe the biggest mystery isn't what secrets he kept, but how anyone could survive so much while continuing to stand in the spotlight. John Travolta has been one of Hollywood's most familiar faces for decades. Audiences watched him dance through Saturday Night Fever, sing in Grease, and reinvent himself in Pulp Fiction. On screen, he always seemed confident, charismatic, and larger than life. But away from the cameras, another story was unfolding. For nearly 30 years, his private world looked nothing like the image millions believed they knew. And when the missing pieces are placed together, they reveal a life filled with remarkable success, heartbreaking loss, and questions that still spark debate today. But how did one of Hollywood's brightest stars end up living such a complicated life? John Joseph Travolta was born on February 18, 1954, in Englewood, New Jersey. He was the youngest of 6 children in a family where performing was simply part of everyday life. His mother, Helen, was an actress, singer, and drama teacher who encouraged creativity from an early age. His father, Salvatore, had once played semi-professional football before becoming a tire salesman. Growing up in an Irish and Italian Catholic household just outside New York City, John developed a love for entertaining that never faded. At only 16 years old, he made the bold decision to leave high school and chase an acting career full-time. It was a huge gamble, but one that would soon change his life forever. Or so it seemed. Travolta worked through commercials, television appearances, and stage productions before making his off-Broadway debut in Rain in 1972. He later toured with Grease before appearing on Broadway in Over Here alongside Patty and Maxine Andrews. Then, in 1975, everything changed. He landed the role of Vinnie Barbarino on Welcome Back, Kotter. Almost overnight, he became one of America's biggest teenage idols. Fan mail flooded in, magazine covers followed, and his fame exploded. His mother reportedly worried the goofy character might prevent people from taking him seriously as an actor. As history would prove, those fears were completely unnecessary. But another event that same year would quietly shape the rest of his life. What happened behind the scenes would become just as important as his rise to fame. While filming the horror movie The Devil's Rain in 1975, a co-star introduced Travolta to the book Dianetics. That introduction eventually led him into the Church of Scientology, a relationship that would last for decades. Around the same time, he appeared in Brian De Palma's Carrie. Even in a supporting role, Travolta stood out, and it became obvious he had the kind of screen presence that couldn't be ignored. Then came Saturday Night Fever in 1977. Playing Tony Manero transformed him into an international superstar. The Bee Gees soundtrack became a worldwide sensation, and the famous opening scene of Travolta walking through Brooklyn to Staying Alive became one of the most recognizable moments in movie history. At just 24 years old, he earned his first Academy Award nomination. But behind the celebration, tragedy was already waiting. During the filming of Saturday Night Fever, Travolta was deeply in love with actress Diana Hyland, who was 18 years older than him. She had previously played his mother in The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. While he was making the movie that launched him into superstardom, Hyland's breast cancer returned. Travolta rushed back to Los Angeles to be with her, and on March 27, 1977, she died in his arms. The grief was devastating, but his career never slowed down. Just 1 year later, Grease arrived. His performance as Danny Zuko alongside Olivia Newton-John made him an even bigger star. The soundtrack dominated the charts. The film became one of the most successful musicals ever made, and even members of his own family appeared in both Grease and Saturday Night Fever. It seemed like nothing could stop him. But success in Hollywood rarely lasts forever, and Travolta was about to learn that the hard way. The early 1980s brought a dramatic decline. Although Urban Cowboy performed reasonably well, several projects that followed disappointed critics and audiences. Staying Alive, directed by Sylvester Stallone, failed to capture the magic of the original. Two of a Kind and Perfect also struggled. To make matters worse, Travolta turned down or lost several career-changing roles that instead went to Richard Gere and Tom Hanks. By the end of the decade, despite the success of Look Who's Talking, many believe his days as a major Hollywood star were over. Yet while his professional life was fading, another part of his story was becoming even more complicated. What exactly was happening behind closed doors? Travolta's connection to Scientology grew stronger throughout these years. He later credited the church with helping launch his career after taking courses at the Celebrity Center in Los Angeles. His belief became deeply rooted during the most successful period of his rise. But years later, journalist Lawrence Wright's research for Going Clear introduced a different narrative. According to former Scientologists interviewed for the book, there were rumors Travolta had considered leaving the church at various times. Wright reported claims that confidential material from auditing sessions could be used to discourage prominent members from leaving. Travolta has never publicly addressed those specific allegations, and the church strongly denied them. Even so, those claims fueled even more public curiosity, and they connected directly to another question that had surrounded Travolta for decades. For years, rumors circulated about Travolta's sexuality. Stories suggested he was gay or bisexual while maintaining a public image as a devoted husband and family man. Scientology's teachings have historically viewed homosexuality negatively, making those rumors even more controversial. In 2012, two unnamed male massage therapists filed separate lawsuits accusing Travolta of misconduct. His legal team denied every allegation and presented evidence placing him elsewhere during at least one of the alleged incidents. Both lawsuits were later withdrawn. Around the same time, writer Robert Randolph published a book and made similar claims about Travolta's private life. Travolta's attorney, Marty Singer, denied the accusations, and when Randolph later sued for defamation, a judge dismissed the case. The rumors never disappeared, but none of these claims were proven in court. While speculation continued, another chapter of Travolta's life was quietly unfolding.